Welcome back. Owen Len Archibald with us today. He is reviewing the new Scream movie. Okay, here I held out a slight glimmer of hope because it has a lot of the original cast. Sometimes they'll do sequels or reboots and nobody associated with the originals there. It does have some of the familiar faces that we saw in the first one, right?
Yeah, so you know, with all the Scream movies, they're meta. That's the selling point. So with this Scream, titled Scream or Scream 5, I guess, really depending on what you want to do with it. This particular film deals with what are called requels, and we've been seeing a lot of these lately. And The Matrix Resurrections, for example, or Cobra Kai. You know, these are properties that were old. They're decades old, and now they're coming back with the original characters and things like that. But at the same time, there is an element of definitely trying to pass the torch or try to tell a different story and blah blah blah. It tries. I give the movie credit for the attempt. It has a lot of good ideas. The people who wrote and directed the film, they're the same ones that created Ready or Not, which I love. I love that movie. But I think what this film suffers from is the filmmakers are too big of a fan of the Scream movies. So this is a deep dive movie. If you haven't seen the other four, you may get lost. If you aren't a big fan of either horror movies or understand a lot of the terminology that a lot of the cast are using in terms of like requels and whatnot, you're going to be lost. So there's like a new killer in Woodsboro, and they're causing trouble. And yeah, Cindy Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, and Deputy Dewey, David Arquette, and Gale Weathers. Courtney Cox, obviously they have to come back together and try to help find the killer and solve the murder. And their stuff, with their plots when they arrive, it's decent. And I think that's because there's a familiarity. The audience knows who they are, and so we already empathize with them and kind of want to see them succeed. But then we have the newcomers, and that's where things get a little wonky.
Yeah, I think some of the sequels are hit or miss, and part of the problem I remember was, as you said, each time the killer's a different person, a masked killer, and there would be at least one or two sequels where they would be, at the end, it would be, surprise, it was me, and I don't even remember that character. They were like sweeping up in the gym or something. I mean, are they... Right. You just don't even know who it is, Yeah,
I'm not going to spoil this, but I'm going to say this much. If you watch horror movies, and if you're specifically familiar with the Scream movies, within the first 10 minutes, you know who the killer is.
Really? Okay. Wow.
It's that transparent.
Okay. Yeah.
But here's the trick. The first Scream was pretty transparent in telling you who the killers were too. Which is what made it work. But here, this feels like a rehash. And I think that's like I said, there are a lot of really good ideas. And a lot of the performances were good, but this is like the horror movie version of The Force Awakens. Okay. Where you have these new characters and they're interesting, and then you have all these legacy characters and they come in and you think there's going to be a lot of like really cool twists and turns, but then the last half hour comes and it's A New Hope.
Right.
And so that's what happens with this one. There are a lot of, like I said, a lot of interesting ideas and everything, but then the last half hour is basically the first Scream movie, and if you've seen that, what's the point?
Gotcha.
And I think that's becoming an issue with a lot of these requels or legacy sequel movies that are, like I said, I just mentioned that with The Force Awakens. Matrix Resurrections is another example. It's just another, it's just really hard. Halloween Kills. It's just really difficult to try to keep an older property fresh if you don't have fresh ideas. If you're just going to rehash everything, it just kind of feels like a waste of time.
Makes sense. How many Lennies do you give this?
I give this 3. I mean, if you're a fan of the Scream movies, I think you'll still get something out of it, at least from the meta perspective. Again, like I said, the performances are good, but yeah, it's just a rehash. I'm not going to remember this in a month's time.
Yeah, that's the best review. All right, thank you, Len. We appreciate it. Nice talking with you.
No problem.
You bet. We'll be back right after this.